Hello, my name is Karen Gaines, and today I'm going to talk with you about filing 1099s. So this video is for business owners, anyone who is self-employed, and anyone who is in charge of filing 1099s for their organization. So what is the purpose of filing 1099s? Well, the short answer is to ensure that the IRS receives all of its tax revenue. They want to ensure that all revenue is accounted for. There are four types of 1099s. There's the 1099 NEC, which is your non-employee compensation, your 1099 miscellaneous, your 1099 dividend, and 1099 interest. The 1099 NEC is given to anyone who's provided services. So that could be your accountant, your cleaning person, your social media manager, any freelancer, just anyone who's provided services. Your 1099 miscellaneous is for anyone you pay rent to and anyone you've paid for prizes and awards and etc. So let's go a little deeper. Who exactly gets a 1099? In general, anyone you paid out of your bank account will receive a 1099. So that means anyone you've paid out of cash, you've paid via check or ACH will receive a 1099. The exception to this is your third-party payment processors, which we'll get to later. You'll also want to send 1099s to anyone you've paid over $600, anyone who is a sole proprietor, LLC, taxed as a sole proprietor, a partnership, and also attorneys. And attorneys must receive 1099s no matter if they're an LLC or a C corporation. The IRS requires attorneys, all attorneys, to receive 1099s. And I'm not exactly sure why, but maybe, they just don't trust attorneys. So who does not get a 1099? C corporations and S corporations, they do not need a 1099. Anyone you've paid under $600, third-party payment processors. If you paid anyone via a third-party payment processor, you do not need to send a 1099. Or if you've paid anyone by credit card, you don't need to send a 1099 to that vendor either. Those recipients will receive a 1099-K. All right. Now the exception to this is if you've paid someone via Zelle. Zelle will not provide a 1099-K. So if you paid someone via Zelle, you are going to have to provide a 1099. Any payments in which you've provided, any payments in which you've purchased merchandise or paid for utilities or shipping or storage, anything along those lines, those vendors will not receive a 1099. So whenever I prepare a 1099 file, I typically go to the accounting software and run a cash distribution report. And then I group that report by vendor. And the first thing I do is eliminate all the vendors in which $600 or less was paid to them. I remove all C corporations, all S corporations, anyone paid through a third-party payment processor. I remove those. I just start off by removing a lot of vendors. And what I find is when I remove all of those vendors, I'm typically left with a handful of vendors. of 1099 or possible 1099 vendors. And from there, I'll go through and determine if that vendor should receive a 1099. So I'm going to segue and talk about W-9s. In determining who receives a 1099, you'll want to have received a W-9 from those vendors. Received a W-9 or at least the information from a W-9. And the W-9, all it is a document that provides information about your vendor. So the vendor name, their status, their address, and social security number or EIN number. It helps you determine if that vendor will receive a 1099 or not. So if you're going through your 1099 list and you're not sure if that vendor should receive a 1099, you will need to obtain that W-9. Okay? Best practices is that you obtain the W-9 whenever you receive services. Whenever you receive services from that vendor. Some companies require a W-9 before the vendor even ever gets paid. What I like to do is just review my 1099 list a few times throughout the year and collect the W-9s needed so that I'm not scrambling for W-9s during January when I'm trying to file my 1099s. So when you filed your 1099 list, you'll want to determine if you file your 1099s via paper or electronic. There has been a new rule change from the IRS in that if you have 10 or more electronic returns, if you have 10 or more informational returns, you are required to file electronically. So that means if you have 6 W-2s and 6 1099s, then you are required to file your 1099s electronically. If you have 10 or less informational returns, then you can file by paper if you wish. So I'm thinking the IRS is tired of dealing with paper, and so they are making businesses and organizations file these 1099s electronically, because before the cutoff was 250 informational returns and now it's 10. So when are 1099s due? So the 1099 NEC is due by January 31st. The 1099 miscellaneous, if filing by paper, is due February 28th, and if filing electronically, the 1099 miscellaneous is due March 31st. So it is in your best interest to file your 1099s, because if you do not, the IRS can file penalties and fines against you. So it's definitely in your best interest to file your 1099s. So I hope this video helps you. If you need any assistance, any bookkeeping or accounting assistance, you can contact me below and schedule a consultation to see how I can help you. Until then, you have a great day.